Yeah, so it doesn't seem like Shedeur got drafted in the in the third round, in the second round. So there's uh there's five more rounds left to go. Of course, I believe he will get drafted. He's good enough to be drafted by an NFL team. But right now, I don't think that he can go to any NFL team and just be plugged in as to be a starter. Um, I think things that certain rookies have done, like things that C.J. Stroud has done, and things that Jaden Daniels has done, sort of clouds our judgment to think that these young NFL quarterbacks can just come in and just take over a team immediately, and then you're gonna see instant success. It doesn't really work that way. Normally, it does not. Usually, you have to go to a good situation and have good pieces around you, a good coaching staff, and it's a team sport. It's not tennis. This is not golf. Um, a quarterback is only as good as his offensive line and the offensive scheme. And sometimes a quarterback is as good as his defense because if you have a good defense, your defense can put you in favorable positions on the football field in terms of field position and give you the opportunities to score points. And even though you may not have gaudy numbers as a quarterback in terms of your yards thrown or completion percentage, if you're getting W's, that goes on your record. They'll say things like, "Oh, he's 5-0 as a starter," regardless of your stats. So you can be fairly pedestrian and still be viewed as a valuable commodity to your team if you're not turning the ball over, if you're playing within the scheme of your team. So so Shador did not get drafted, but I wasn't the type of person that was thinking that he would go high anyway. But because of the hype behind his name and him being Sanders' son and people who have jumped on that train, many people thought that he would get drafted in the first round. I knew Travis Hunter would go, of course. He's a freakish athlete, two-way. No one, he's rare. That kind of guy comes probably once every 2 decades. But the way that Shador decked out that room for the draft lets you know that he really believed that he would be going in the first round. And if you look online and look at social media, he left a comment. He said that he didn't leave a comment. He actually said this on video. He was like, this is not supposed to be happening. So then again, here we go again with this me against the world kind of thing. It's not that it's people hating on Shador. It's that his play has legitimate concerns. If you look at the quarterbacks of the class, even Melrose, the quarterback for Alabama, his athleticism is off the charts. Um, his throwing isn't that bad either. And I would argue that the quarterback class of this draft wasn't that strong. I believe Cam Ward was the best quarterback of the draft class. And after him, it was just a personal preference of what you want as a GM or as a coach. I think these quarterbacks are like neck and neck. I'm not big into stats. I mean, I'm big into stats, but I'm also big into what my eyes can see. In terms of arm talent, Cam Ward, hands down, was the best quarterback of the NFL draft, and he deserved to go one. Now, there's some concerns about Shador. The scouts say that his athleticism is an issue. Not He's not super slow, but he's not super fast. Many of the sacks that he took, everybody would always blame the offensive line. But throughout the year, remember, I would tell you guys that the offensive scheme, all right, the plays that were drawn up did not fit the type of quarterback that Shador was. You say, well, how do you say that? His stats were good. Yes, I know his stats were good. His stats were good because they were throwing the ball 40 plus times a game. So it's almost like by default, his stats would be good. Most of the passes he threw were bubble screen. Yeah, he threw some deep balls every now and then, but a lot of them were check downs, bubble screens, break screens, things like that. And a player would make a player could take a 2 yard pass and turn it into a 20 yard gain, and that 20 yard gain goes on Shador's stat line. And so a lot of the times that he got sacked, everybody would say the offensive line is not blocking for him, but it's because of his unathletic prowess. He doesn't have athleticism. Not like Melrose. Not like Jaden Daniels. Um, I would argue and say Baker Mayfield is more athletic coming out of Oklahoma. His escapability. Shedeur is deceptively fast in terms of he looks slow, but he's faster than what he looks. But he's still not. His athleticism is not elite. So the concerns from scouts is that his athleticism um, is below average to play the quarterback position, especially in today's NFL. If you look at the successful teams, look at the look at the Baltimore quarterback, Jackson. All right. Look at the Buffalo Bills quarterback, athleticism. Look at even CJ Stroud. He has some sort of escapability. Look at there's probably a handful of quarterbacks who are good, who you can consider to be borderline elite, but it's because of their offensive scheme that makes them what they are. For instance, if you look at the Detroit quarterback, uh, um, um, what's his name? I can't believe his name just left my mind. But the Detroit quarterback, he's not a runner. He's not an athlete. Jared Goff. Jared Goff. Look at Jared Goff. He's not freakishly fast, but their offense is predicated on play action, so he can get away with that. So the scheme of his team fits him very well because he has the right pieces that accentuates his skill set. His skill set is throwing on rhythm and throwing with accuracy, sort of how Tom Brady was. Tom Brady was not an athlete, but he thrived in his he mastered what he was good at, which was being accurate and being very careful with the football. In terms of arm talent, Shedeur is average. I've seen better. So to me, I think that him falling past the second round is shouldn't be a shock, but I think it's a shock to most people because people who follow Colorado football and people who follow Coach Prime are caught into that hype train. And you guys are emotionally attached, and because the father son narrative and the father son story, you kind of want to see it have a happy ending, and so some of you guys are upset. But don't be upset if you just look at the quarterback class. He's Shedeur doesn't stand head above shoulders above all of them. Go back if you don't believe me. Go back. Let's see what history says. I don't know. Maybe you guys can leave a comment. What was he ranked as a high school quarterback? And all the colleges he can go to, he chose Jackson State. He didn't go D1. Now some of you guys may say he wanted to follow his father. Okay, I get it, but he ended up going to D1 with his father when his father got a job promotion to leave Jackson State to join Colorado. And in Colorado, I think that he was put on display to show Coach Prime did that intentionally to take him to a D1 school to showcase to the NFL scouts that his son is good enough to be in the NFL, and rightfully so, he is good enough to be in the NFL. But this idea that he's going to be a first round pick, no, he's good in your own world, in Sanders' world, in Colorado world, in Boulder world. Yes, he's the best quarterback ever. That's what you guys think. But in reality, he's not as good as you guys think he is. He's a serviceable quarterback because if he was that good, trust me, a team would have picked him up. They would have picked him up. So some scouts question whether Sanders possesses the high level athleticism. They question that, and that's a key thing. And that upside, you have to have that athleticism to be a playmaker because in the NFL, most of the times plays break down. And we saw him in college when plays would break down. He would scramble backwards, looking for more time to just throw jump balls in the air to Travis Hunter. He had a safety blanket in Travis Hunter. He had good receivers to throw to. But in the NFL, you're not going to get away with that. You got to throw on rhythm. You have to be athletic. Even Brock Purdy, who was the last pick of the 2022 NFL draft, Mr. Irrelevant himself. He is above average athletic. You see how he scrambles, running away from linebackers in the NFL. You think Shedeur can do that? Shedeur can't do that. So he's literally a pocket passer, and the athleticism isn't there. At least Brock Purdy is a pocket passer, but he has escapability. Look at Aaron Rodgers, even in his prime, he was a pocket passer, but he had the ability to escape. Josh Allen, he can throw in a pocket, but he can also run outside the pocket and escape. The athleticism part is a weakness of Shedeur, but I don't think that it's so bad that he's not going to get drafted. He will. But as I said earlier in my other video, this is good for him. Number one, it humbles him. He said on the video that this adds fuel to the fire, and I hope it does, because it's a little bit embarrassing to see that you decked out an entire room and put all this money into this space, and you didn't get drafted in the first 2 rounds. Sort of humiliating and embarrassing in that sense, and I think that it's always better to be on your low horse and be elevated than to put yourself on your high horse and be brought down. And just let this be a lesson learned to everybody. Don't read your own press clippings. Always make yourself believe you're not good enough. It's the mentality that Kobe had. That's what made him so great. He practiced as if he was trying to make the team. He worked hard as if he was the 12th man on the bench. He had a killer mentality. I'm sorry, folks. I know you guys like the Sanders, and there's nothing wrong with them, but he grew up entitled. I'm sorry. Shedeur is an entitled athlete. He's already making millions, and I'm not faulting him for that. Make your money and do what you need to do. But this idea that he's not entitled, no, he's very entitled. So hopefully this brings him to a position where he's brought back down to reality, and it fuels the fire that he talked about. Fuels the fire and forces him to grind harder and work harder, because the NFL is a different world than college. Just like the people said that HBCU and Division One Power Five conference football are two totally different worlds. Well, the worlds are hyper and highly different, radically, exponentially much different when you talk about Division One football and NFL football. What you got away with in college, you're not going to get away with that in the NFL. So yeah, so let's see. We'll see if he gets drafted in the 3rd round. I don't think it's the worst thing that's ever happened. Brock Purdy did okay being last pick, and I wouldn't be surprised if Shedeur is the last pick. Not because he's a bad player. It's just he's not ready to be an NFL starter. He's going to be a backup. Sort of like how Geno Smith was. And then he'll get his opportunity later on in his career. But whoever drafts him, understand that you're drafting Deion Sanders as well. Even though Deion Sanders is not physically on your football team or part of your coaching staff, the words and, media is going to be around asking questions. Are you going to give Shedeur a chance to play? It's sort of like that Tim Tebow effect. Remember when Tim Tebow played for Denver? Whenever the starting quarterback went down and they were trying to find out who would be the better backup, and even when they put in a better backup, you had fans clamoring for Tim Tebow because of his popularity, because he was a believer in Jesus Christ, and he took a knee and everybody swore that he was like the second coming of Jesus. And that's a distraction. A lot of teams don't want that. So there's a lot of things going against Shedeur right now. And a lot of it is not his own doing. A lot of it is out of his control. But if I were him, I would just stay the course, keep breathing. You're going to be okay. But when you get to the NFL, you're starting from scratch. You're starting from the bottom. And I don't know if he can handle coming from the bottom. I don't know if Shedeur has ever faced adversity. Now, I'm not talking about adversity on the football field, playing a game, being down, and you're trying to come back. That's not the type of adversity. I'm talking about career adversity, humbling adversity. I think this incident that he's going through right now perhaps is probably the biggest thing he's ever gone through in terms of adversity in his athletic world, in his athletic career. And when he gets into the NFL, it's going to be a new monster he's going to have to deal with. And hopefully this thing that he's going through right now is going to propel him to grind a little bit harder, because Cam Ward came from the mud. 0-star athlete. No one wanted him. He didn't have the luxury of having a Hall of Fame father. That's why he's number one. So since being entitled and being comfortable and being protected by your dad all the time does sort of kill your inner drive to be great. Not saying that Shedeur doesn't want to be great, but he's a victim of his own environment. He's a victim of his dad's success. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Leave a comment. Tell me what you guys think. Peace.